What's up, my people? You. Melinda, while you're here, I gotta make you a moderator. Boom. Why doesn't it have the wrench yet? Next time you type, yeah, boom. Look at that. Look at how pretty you looking with a wrench. I need to get some water. What's up, Maria? What's up, Nikki? What's up, DM? I need to get some water from my car real quick. I just had a chat with Stan Gordon, researcher for since the 1970s phone. I don't think he thought I was too crazy. Actually, I think he enjoyed the information. Damn, I was thirsty. I've been walking for a while. Welcome everybody in the chat room. What's up? Let me see who's out there. Hey everybody. Yeah, I did Leap Project last night, so that video's up. And I just hope when people see these videos, it helps them or inspires them to do their own soul searching, their own research. Because that's where the truth lies. Your body responds and knows. And like what I talked about last night on Leap Project, there's a higher consciousness, a higher self, a higher cosmic consciousness that people have been talking about for thousands of years. And when you come to certain knowledge, when you come across certain things, that consciousness knows you know. And I think there's a galactic decision literally made. At that point. You realize too, our free will is like the ultimate law of the universe, literally. I can't say that enough. And I do feel that's what this whole transformation is about. It's over our free will. What better topic to talk about is the nature of our existence and who we are and where we're going, right? What's very interesting is you guys see the headline that I put in the title of this video, what I'm going to talk about, which is a very interesting aspect. And a lot of things that for many people are trying to, talk about for so long that would just be myth and mythology. Now, we're starting to come to some of the technology to realize, oh, this is what they were explaining. It's not mythology. Like, there's actually some technology, that's emerging now that makes us have a frame of reference to what some things we're talking about. That's why ancient myths need to be all reevaluated if people have that sort of interest. And I do think the Germans, the Russians, Germans, China, they all come across it. It's different knowledge at different times, but I do think the Germans put certain discoveries that they came across to work. And I do think there is an example with the Brazilian psychic surgeon that was called Arigo. I've mentioned Arigo before. There's a lot of new listeners out there that don't know who I'm talking about. Arigo, it's spelled Arigo. He was a Brazilian surgeon. He passed away in his late 40s in a mysterious car accident. Now, it's a whole nother story. But Arigo literally broke every law that every surgeon is taught in law school. He didn't use antiseptics. He didn't use sterilization. He would just use the same knife on every surgery and then wipe on his shirt and go right back into the next guy. Right? He violated every law. This is how Arigo would see his patients. And yes, he worked a regular job as a civil servant, and on his off hours, he would do free surgery for the Brazilian public, or whoever would come to him all over the world, if he chose to see them. Sometimes 200 to 300 in a matter of a couple of hours. Each surgery would last anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes at most. Just a few moments. Some just 3 or 4 seconds. But the typical surgery would last about 30 to 40 seconds. Right? And people would not experience pain during it. He was cutting into their flesh with a pocket knife, with no drugs, no antiseptics, no sterilization, no what's it called when they put you under? It's the word's escaping my mind right now. But when they put you under the gases, anesthesia. Yes, I couldn't think of it. Thank you, Melinda. Yeah, so no anesthesia, none of that. And the way he would figure out the people would line up, and the way he would see them is the person would come before him. They wouldn't have to say anything. He would do a scan of them. He would look at them for a few moments, and within a few seconds, he would know exactly what to do, and he would tell them not to look at it. They would look away, and he would sometimes plunge the knife behind their eyeball and do something, or plunge it into them and cut out whatever. And he wouldn't have to look for it. Like, he would know exactly where to cut. Tumors would just pop right out. He would pull them straight out. Now, this was being reported in all of Brazil. It started to get, and it started making notice all over the world. So real medical doctors, heard about this in the United States and throughout the world, and they started to visit this guy to see what the hell is going on, because it violated every known law. It just couldn't be real. It just had to be some sort of mass hallucination or something, right? So before we get to the actual proof that, there's videos, well-known doctors, well-respected doctors from our United States went there and even got surgeries from him. Dr. Polharich had one of those fatty tumors on his elbow and his forearm that the guy removed in like 2 seconds. He didn't use no antibiotics, no nothing afterwards. Just cut him open with a friggin' Swiss pocket knife. And he said the thing just popped right out of him. And he said he looked away for a moment, and the next minute the guy handed the tumor in his hand, this blobby thing, and he kept it until the day he died. He had it in like a jar, in the liquid in a jar. I don't know what you keep it in, alcohol or whatever the hell you keep it in. But he kept the tumor, and he never had no problems. He never had an infection. It healed in a couple of days. All he had to do was put an unsterilized piece of gauze on it after the guy did it. And it only took about 4 or 5 seconds. He made 6 incisions or something. Real quick incisions, and it just popped right out. He made little incisions all around it, and then it popped right out. It was in his hand. He was holding it So, and Dr. Puharich had this on video, and many other people's. But the most amazing part of it is that where this guy says his abilities came from. Now, Arigo, he was like from Campo de, I forget the name of the town that he was from in Brazil, but you can look it up online. It's Campo de something. I forget the whole name of the town. But I even have the book Arigo. It was actually my mom's. And he's well known in Brazil. And the most amazing part of Arigo is where he said he got these psychic surgery powers from. And sometimes he wouldn't have to do surgeries on people. Like sometimes he would look at the person and give them like a really long written out prescription procedure for them to do a series of sometimes over-the-counter stuff, sometimes herbs, and it was remarkable healing people were having. Remarkable. So he wasn't just all surgery. He was doing these really complex prescription procedures he was writing out. Even after Dr. Puharich had the surgery on his elbow, he wrote like a long prescription procedure afterwards to do. No, not at this. No, it wasn't after the elbow surgery. After the elbow surgery, years later, Dr. Puharich went to him again, and Arigo turned to him because Dr. Puharich was recording Arigo's surgeries. He was writing stuff about him and documenting this guy. You know, for a long period of time, he went there on different occasions in Brazil to document this guy. So during one of the times where he went to go do some documentation on this guy Arigo turned to him out of nowhere and said, "Do you know you have osteocalosis, or it's like a hardening of your inner ear that it can form like, you know, lack of hearing and stuff like that." He turned to Dr. Puharich and said that, and Dr. Puharich said, "Oh, I didn't know about that." So he went home to the States and got it tested, and sure enough, he did have it. And he decided to do the procedure that Arigo wrote for him, and it was a series of some antibiotics and all of this stuff. So sometimes he wrote out like antibiotics for people, but he would never use them during his operations or anything like that. Like, so sometimes he would write prescriptions for people, and sometimes he would do surgeries. And where he said he got this psychic powers from was truly the most intense part of the story. Forget about him cutting into people and pulling out tumors. He literally said that the power did not come from him, it came from a higher source. And when they asked him more about this higher intelligence that he's talking about, he said that he was embodied by a German doctor named Adolfo Fritz. A German doctor died in 1919. And Arigo was doing these operations like in the 50s, 60s. I think he died in the late 60s or early 70s or something like that. But I think it was in the 1960s where Dr. Puharich was doing a lot of his research on Arigo and working with him. And Arigo came into these powers, I think in his late 30s or early 40s. And he died in his late 40s. So he had them for like 10 years or so, I think. I don't know if he was, I don't think it was that he was born with it. I think it all of a sudden came on at a key point in time. What's very interesting about this is that he said he was embodied by I don't know if the guy was a Nazi or a German. It was 1919, so that's the time of World War I around. So he said the guy died. Dr. Puharich couldn't find actual records of a birth of anybody or a life of anybody named Adolfo Fritz from Germany. That was a medical doctor, but that wasn't surprising because from both world wars, a lot of the records were demolished, and there's not a record of everybody that existed and every medical doctor there was and all of that. So they're definitely, especially if the guy was doing some sort of high-tech work, they definitely would have his name concealed and people wouldn't know about it. right? Especially if it was if he was really doing, if he was the one in control of the high-tech stuff, right? So, hey, everybody in the chat room, hold on for a second. I'll get to you guys' questions in a minute. So, I'll get to you guys in the chat room in a minute, everybody. So, if you guys want to support me in the chat, you guys can ask questions or whatever as well. But in 1 second, I'll get to you guys' comments. I haven't looked at it yet. So, let me just finish my thought about this. So, this guy, Adolfo Fritz, was said to be a medical doctor that died in 1919. And he was now embodying this Brazilian healer, Arigo. And Arigo said that he was embodied by this higher force. And his name was Adolfo Fritz. He's a German doctor, and he died in 1919. So he said that the doctor is the one who steps in and does the evaluation and does the surgery, and he's the one who's guiding Arigo's hands, Arigo's consciousness. And the guy can literally, anybody who's in front of him, he would scan within a couple of seconds and know exactly where to cut into, and he would do these surgeries. They were recorded. Doctors thought it would be a mass hallucination, and medical doctors, well respected throughout the world, the United States and all, went there and even got surgery from him. It's one of the only really legit documented cases of a psychic healer that actually was doing surgeries that were legit, not killing people. And people were a remarkable success rate, like remarkable. And this supposedly guy who passed away in Germany in 1919, Adolfo Fritz, this doctor, was the one embodying Arigo, this Brazilian healer. Now, what's interesting about that is long within the occult alchemy and the occult and the ancient mysteries, they talk about transmigration of souls. Sometimes it would be used for even punishment. I know the Safed Jews, they would punish people for their clandestine sexual rituals by transmigrating their soul into even an animal or some other place, or even into some other world, right? So what if this guy, the Germans, discovered ancient knowledge of the transmigration of souls and how they use stone wheels and megalithic stone sites that's involved in this as well? Maybe they learned some high-tech soul transmigration, and this guy, at the moment of his death, was used in a German experiment, and they were able to transmigrate their soul into someone who had like a high shamanism consciousness, a higher brainwave state that could feel that frequency that it. And that's why maybe they were able to embody this Brazilian healer. Why would he make that up, that it was a German, a guy who died in Germany in 1919, Adolfo Fritz? That's not something somebody just makes up. And then he's actually doing these surgeries. Let's see what's up in the chat room. Anesthesia. Good afternoon, Brian, Mitch, Alley Cat, Phillips, Earthship, Scott Severini, Mello, Matteo, Nikki, Melinda. Jesus is coming very, very soon. Yes, he is. DMT, Nikki, Maria, whoever else is out there wants a shout out, say what's up. Nongo, regular girl. How's everybody doing out there? So what's everybody's thoughts? What's up? What's up, Miss Juarez? Hey, Larry, my brother. What's up? Free energies in the house. Mitch, hello. Cat D, the news headquarters. Yeah, well, I'm on my old phone. Actually, my buddy Larry, shout out to my brother Larry, man. He's family to me. He really looks out. He just sent a new like cinematography type camera. So once I get the SIM card in it, we'll be using that for videos. So this one glitches out when I'm walking around. It gets pixelated. So sorry about that. I could give you some sun view instead of my mug. Yeah, the Hudson Valley. Yeah, Larry's amazing. You know what? Some people don't have families that they're close to, so we find our soul family out there. And you know, when you do good for people, good comes back to you always, for sure, especially when it comes from your heart. Yeah, Larry's amazing. For sure. My buddy Hawk I talked to today as well. We're gonna get the comic book started. Yeah, it's beautiful out. Yeah, I mean, I talk about it all the time. Who's that? Regular girl. I talk about it all the time, about the Hudson Valley. I might have to move away from here one day, who knows. I've moved away a couple of times, came back. I grew up here, been here. Out of my 42 years, I've pretty much been here about 39 or 40 of it. You know, I lived a couple of years in California. I traveled a couple of places, but majority of my life has been in the Hudson Valley and in or around, you know, the counties surrounding New York City and New York City. You know, so all along the Hudson River. And this is definitely on our heart. If you want to call it ley lines, you want to call it a harmonic energy grid. It's definitely part of our key part of the grid in our spider web that's across our dimension. Hello, Juliana, Alley Cat. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talks of soul migrations in ancient Hebrew and in Kabbalistic lore, right? It wouldn't be surprised that the Germans discovered this, and that's why they also were so heavy on taking knowledge and then eliminating a race that they took it from, right? So it wouldn't be surprised that the Germans around the time of World War I did have some sort of transmigration of soul technology, and I do think that they're used in stone circles. There's different stone circles that can activate certain key points of the year, like equinoxes or solstices or things like that. That there's some sort of alignment that takes, and the stone wheel becomes like a torus field of energy. And we have these stone wheels all over the planet on specific spots on our harmonic energy grid. Where I had my experience in California in 2002 was right on the 33rd parallel, and it was right on the harmonic energy grid of Long Beach. And it was right inside of a stone wheel that they had made in the park. Right? It also, there's a stone wheel, a very, very more ancient one in Lebanon on the 33rd parallel called Gilgal Rephaim. Gilgal Rephaim means the stone wheel of the giants. And it's an ancient one that's in the Golan Heights in Lebanon area. That's right on the 33rd parallel, right where Mount Hermon is, where the fallen angels came down, where higher dimensional creatures decided to come into this genetic experiment and add their mix to the race, to the gene pool. Right on the 33rd parallel is where Mount Hermon is. And even in the book of Enoch, they talk about this is the spot where 200 fallen angels came down. And there's another 33rd parallel right where I experienced in Long Beach. And I didn't know that at the time. I found out years after I had this experience, years later. Of course, I've done extensive research on what happened to me. Where Google Earth, everything I could find out about the place and where and what happened. Sense I could make out of it. And I found out that the 33rd parallel that runs in Long Beach, that 33rd parallel on the other side runs right through the Golan Heights, right where the Gilgal Stone Rephaim wheel is, right where Mount Hermon in Lebanon is, right where there's known spots where higher dimensional beings came down into this realm. Those are not coincidences. Those are remarkable proof. We have coordinates on this planet that is directly the mirror of our higher dimensional coordinates. And I think one of the pineal center of our planet is like the foundation stone right in Jerusalem. That's one of the key energy spots. Right the spot where Jacob's ladder took place. Yeah, it's weird how a lot of people had intense experiences in 1987, like near-death experiences, or there was a lot of walk-ins in the late 1980s that I've talked about. And a lot of souls were remembering their soul contracts and getting activated during this time. Yep, the Egyptians. Yeah, I mean, we exist because of a code, right? Our genetic code is a digital code. That's how things exist within this genetic experiment world. So when you know the code, you can create. That's why the ancient Egyptians would experience like certain beings like Ra that they would describe would appear as a hawk. They can appear what's like relevant at the time to the people. They can appear as anything. Damn, there's like all gnats in the air right here or something. Right in that one spot. All these trees are dead, and then you got one little spot where there's like all these little gnats or something. Ugh. Yeah, well, I'm not gonna go into the dolphins right now, but I've done whole shows about dolphins. Dolphins are amazing, yeah. It definitely means something when you have an experience with dolphins. It's definitely about knowledge. It's definitely about awakening ancient knowledge within you, for sure. Dolphins were brought here to help seep in the 4D to 3D for us. And I've had visions of them first arriving here within comets. Like their DNA was brought here into water from comets. They were transported here. They were seeded from another dimension, from another world. to help with the negative energy on our planet. And now they are literally being, especially with 5G, you know, they're installing 5G beneath the water so submarines can communicate with planes and shit like that. And it's killing their sonar. It's killing their brain waves. It's literally killing their brain waves. I love you guys too, Tian. Yeah, I've done shows about dolphins before, for sure. I even did a show on Leak Project about dolphins, about the freshwater dolphins of Ganges River, the Ganges River dolphins, the Amazon dolphins, the freshwater dolphins. I do think it's some of the freshwater dolphins are some of the most special. And yeah, I've talked about them. You know, I can't talk about the same topics every day, so, but I've definitely done shows on them. Even on Leak Project, I've done shows on dolphins. On TFR. You know, guys, I got my own radio show for those that just find me from Leak Project and just found me recently. I have my show on Truth Frequency Radio every Saturday night from 7 to 9. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/themysticalspiral. Every week I put a lot of stuff up on there. That's the place to be. For as low as $2 a month, I mean, you get mind-blowing info every week. So definitely check me out at patreon.com/themysticalspiral, themysticalspiralstore.com, themysticalspiral.com, Truth Frequency Radio. Yeah, the dolphins is an amazing topic, you know, and it's sad that people put it into like the woo-woo, like new age metaphysical, because they're as ancient as Atlantis, they're as ancient as can be. And they definitely help bring information from the sky waters to the below waters. And they are star seeds. Same with whales. You know, octopus are at a whole nother level too, because I do think they're the third dimension, lower dimensional version of like what like higher dimensional energies in the skies were, like this, like lightning storms and things like that. That they're literally some sort of like in a higher dimension that they're super advanced as well, and that we can't even fathom what all this really means in like to be in a higher dimensional aspect of 40. We can't even it's like asking a circle to understand what a pyramid is or something like that. It's like impossible, right? We try to talk about what 4D and 5D is, but in reality none of us can truly fathom the difference of these realities. Yeah, I talk about it. I mean, for the ELF, I gotta go in a second. But for the ELF, I talked about it. Look up Project Woodpecker. You know, they were beaming ELF waves across our planet starting in July 4th, 1974 or 1976 or something. Yeah, I mean, we have all these places that I don't think that we're not getting plunged into a lower brain frequency that makes us depressed. Yeah, for the readings, go to themysticalspiral.com, and they're in the menu. You'll see oracle readings. Actually, I think it's bioenergetic readings. Yup. So I definitely am doing a show tonight, actually, as well, from home with my new camera. it out after Lead Project yesterday. I figured it out because Lead Project, the video was a little bit more darker than it should be because of the lighting in the room. But I figured out that my camera has a touch light on it. Like you touch it on the corners, and there's like a spotlight that comes on. It's a new camera I just got. Shout out to Larry. Larry hooked me up, and so I just figured out that next time it'll be way brighter even. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, you know, I read an interesting book about somebody's experience with octopuses called Soul of an Octopus. I have it at my house. I'm almost finished with it. In fact, if you want, who's ever on my Patreon, I'll send it as a gift to, we'll do a drawing on my Patreon. That I'll finish it, we'll send it out to somebody as a gift. So, thank you everybody for joining me. And it's called Soul of an Octopus, I think. It's like an award-winning book, too. Thank you everybody for joining me. Spiral out.